All right, y'all. Welcome back to the first live episode of the Jester Section Hiker podcast here in 2025. It is a sunny Carolina blue sky day here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is a little bit on the chilly side, but nonetheless, going to get out and do a little of a longer hike later after this episode. For those of you that are in the chat, great to see you. Let us know where you're from. If you have any questions, go ahead and put your questions in the chat as we go. And I do not want to banter on any longer with this introduction. You all know that I have been on this huge health lifestyle journey since the beginning of 2024, and it hasn't stopped. We're still learning. We're still moving forward, and it only makes sense to have my current trainer on the show so you can get all the deets from her, how I'm doing, how things are going, why we are training the way we are training. And her name is Logan, and I hope I don't mess this up. Sandati. I probably messed it up. So Logan, you can correct me here in a second. She has some accolades under her name. She has her BS in athletic training from Catawba College. She was the team captain of Catawba College women's soccer. She is a certified strength and conditioning specialist and a board certified athletic trainer. And Logan and I have a story to share with you all. And that is how we are going to start off, how we actually know each other. So here we are. Logan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to see you. So I already gave your accolades. Everybody knows you have what it takes to train, but we're going to get more into that. But I want to tell our story because if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, everybody knows I'm an educator. Everybody knows that I worked at a certain high school for almost 18 years. And Logan is a 2016 graduate of that high school. So Logan, kind of introduce yourself, tell everybody how you know me, and really let's get into when you first saw me. What were you thinking when you saw me at Champions?
Really get deep into it.
Let's go.
So I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I believe the first time I saw you, I must have been a freshman at Hopewell in hospitality and tourism. And it's funny, my sister is a now graduate with civil engineering from Virginia Tech. And I asked her recently, like, how did you even get interested in engineering? And she was at Hopewell only her freshman year of high school. She's 4 years younger than me. And she was like, Hopewell had an engineering program. And I was like, oh. I had no idea. So I was joking that my accolades at Hopewell were not very academic at the time. So I guess I didn't get into many other things other than soccer, but I did do hospitality and tourism somehow for a little bit. But and then years later, so probably 10 years later is when or 8 years, I don't know, 8 to 10 years later.
Yeah.
Because I was 14 right then, but then.
Oh my gosh, 14.
Or 15, whatever you are as a freshman. And now I'm 26, turning 27 here soon. So probably a decade later, I saw you again at the gym where now I work full time and manage, and just kind of was like, hey, I know you. I went to Hopewell. And we just slowly started talking again from there. And you told me, you were recovering from an injury and doing all this hiking. And I think Matt was kind of like, hey, you should train with Logan once you kind of graduate from physical therapy. So then I just kept bothering you every time I saw you at the gym to kind of get you going on the training side.
Yeah. So we should probably talk about kind of the makeup of the gym. It's actually a really cool place. So it's called Champions Sports, but within Champions, I don't even know if I got that name right. Within Champions, there is, physical therapy, which is
Yep.
where I rolled into the place.
Yep.
There's a speed school, and it's not your traditional gym. There are tons of things going on at once. Could be high schoolers training, D1 level athletes, people like myself recovering from injury. So,
Yep.
kind of tell your history and your story of you working at Champions and what kind of place is it?
Yeah, so Champion Sports Performance has been there for 13 years. I'm coming up on year 6 myself now. But Champions, at one point, that was the only thing that went on in that facility, which was we consider ourselves a family training center to where we were training adults. Obviously, we love it when it's the parents of our youth athletes, but we train all different types of adults and getting them just, stronger, healthier, and confident. And then our youth program is really focused around teaching the fundamentals of athletic movement. So we say, we want to empower every kid with improving their speed, strength, and confidence. So they can be successful in any sport, really. It's not a specialized program. It's more of a generalized approach, athletic training approach. So that's what we do. But now the setup does have 2 more tenants, which brought in architect, which is physical therapy. So that is not our business. We just share the space with them. And then there's mental edge fitness, which does neurofeedback training for the brain, which is pretty awesome. So truly inside of our facility, that was once a car garage, like a fix-up shop. I would consider have every tool to, treat every family and like a very high level athlete with the neurofeedback training, the actual performance training, and the, physical therapy side.
It's a really cool concept, and there's always something going on there, which at what I'll call a traditional gym, I just find it so I don't know. There's always kids running around. There's people of all ages. There's people there doing physical therapy. And it makes sense. It's a natural transition if you have an injury and you're going to intensive physical therapy there, that you would roll over maybe into some classes or into working out with a trainer. And I will say, once we realized we knew each other, that every time I went in there, you were like, come on, you should go, check out this highlight class and this and that. And I looked it up. I was like,
Right.
I don't do that stuff. I don't know how to lift weights. I don't know anything about it. And
Yeah.
quite honestly, it was very intimidating
Right.
until I realized, what this is, the type of mindset that people have that go to Champions. And, like you said, Matt, who everybody has met, he was on the podcast, said, hey, you should go train with Logan. I said, well, she makes the logical sense because she's been trying to get me over there.
Yeah.
So, what has it been like? Let's go back to initially when we started working together. So somebody like me comes over, middle-aged adult, recovering from an injury, loves to go hiking. Like my world is hiking. This podcast is about hiking. And
Right.
it takes me to have I literally had a midlife crisis with the injury to realize everything that you and I are doing, I should have been doing a long time ago. So when somebody like me comes over to you, what are your initial thoughts? How do you start working with somebody like me?
Well, first, I think everyone should comment who they want to hear more from, Matt or myself. Uh, I,
Y'all, they have a contest
yeah.
going on. And
Yeah.
we'll probably talk about this on Tuesday. Who had the most views on the episode.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, so there's a wide range of people that we see, as you've mentioned, but a lot of times I think there are more commonalities than most people would expect. Of course we try, even with our athletes, to give everyone that individualized attention, but whether you are 30 training for a marathon, or 50 rehabbing from an injury, or 70 and wanting just to be able to pick up your grandchildren. Uh, Again, a lot of us need the same thing, or a hiker, right? Like anyone, I feel benefits from strength training. Um, and that is a scary word for a lot of people. So I actually say resistance training more time because I think that sounds nicer. Um, but yeah, just giving them their like really training to stay ready. So for everyone thinks I'm different, right? I can't train with that person because they don't look like me or they don't do the things that I do. But I think if you break it down more times than not, we all need the same things. But we all move differently and have different injury histories and things like that. So that's where I think for our program, we don't usually see anything more than 12 people in a class. So it's very easy to modify different movement patterns. But if you break it down, a squat, how you can load a squat. Okay, you could do a wall sit and just hold a squat. You could do a kettlebell squat, a dumbbell squat. You could front rack a squat, back rack a squat, do an overhead squat. So there's a lot of variations just to the squat pattern. And if you can progress people appropriately, again, they all benefit no matter where they're at in their fitness level. And that's what we do at Champions, is we make strength training very simple to where no matter where you're at as an individual, you can still be part of the group, part of the community, and enjoy all aspects of strength training, in a way that you probably thought you never could.
And one of the things that I will say is all the trainers and everybody works there, whether you're individually training with a trainer that day or you have a class, you start to see the same people. I mean, you learn the ones that are like really into it. They're consistently coming, class after class or training after training. And we all kind of get to know each other. And the next thing you know, like I'm walking in, like high fiving another trainer, Daniel. I mean, you don't walk past Daniel without like high fiving, right? And Daniel is this former WWE or WWF guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Olympic trial athlete and current professional track and field athlete. He does shot put, All American from Chapel Hill. But after that, he did go into WWE for a period of time.
And I feel like every time I'm getting ready to high five him, he's going to like knock my arm out of socket. So it's just like this big, massive guy, but the most friendliest dude, right? And, you get to kind of learn what's going on. And that takes time because it is intimidating when you first start. And let's walk people through the process. So when you and I, like our first day of training, you had me get on this freaking InBody devil is what I call it. But it's this InBody like weigh-in thing. And that is very intimidating. And the very first time we did that, I had no clue what my fat was or muscle or anything like that. So before we get into my results or where I'm at, talk about that. Why do you have people do that?
This is the biggest, I'd say, one of the biggest accountability tools we have as a gym. So for a lot of people, I stress this, with my mom, with really anyone I speak to. When you start a fitness journey, a lot of people are discouraged immediately because they don't see the results on the scale immediately, right? So for example, if you weigh 150 pounds and you've been working out for a month, and then you weigh 150 pounds, to your psyche, what does that feel like? It feels like all of your hard work for 4 weeks, which is a decent amount of time, was waste. But then you step on the InBody and you see, hey, I gained 3 pounds of muscle and lost, 1.5% of body fat or what have you. And, muscle also holds more water. So when you gain muscle, you're also gaining water weight. So, but if you tell yourself, hey, I lost, 1 pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, 4 pounds of fat, I'm like, pick up that dumbbell. That's how much body fat you lost, but you still weigh 150, So, and you can feel it. I always joke, like when you put on your jeans and when you put on your clothes, even though you weigh 150, you can tell it's a different 150. So that's what the composition means, is that, you are changing your ratio of your body fat and your muscle mass. which is huge for longevity, for fitness, for health. I know you've started talking about more visceral fat. So putting things in perspective for people of how important not this number on the scale is, but what the composition is, I think it helps them stay motivated outside the gym. You know, when that InBody test is coming up, you want to see a good number. You don't want to see, you're gaining fat or gaining visceral fat, or your InBody score is going down, which is not, what you probably want. So it is a huge accountability tool outside the gym. Because a lot of your success inside the gym is dependent on what you do outside of our four walls. And it is hard for me to hold people accountable, especially in the beginning, when they're trying to build this healthy lifestyle. So the InBody, I think, because it's an app, you can take it with you, helps hold you accountable. It even has a nutrition component to it. So it helps people to start understanding what their basal metabolic rate is, which is your metabolism, how many calories you burn just every day at rest doing nothing, because muscle burns energy, fat stores it. So it talks about that. It talks about, your macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats. So anyways, it's just this holistic approach to, I think, holding you accountable and helping your success outside the gym as well.
I like it. I didn't like it the first couple times because I was like, oh my God. I mean, honestly, I have nothing to hide at this point for anybody that's listening. It is shocking, even though I can look in the mirror and go, yeah, I got some fat on my body. When you really realize the percentage of fat that is on your body, you're like, I got to do everything it takes to reverse this process. And every time I want to eat junk food or stick my hand in a bag of chips, because I'm a chips salty kind of person. I mean, I can down a bag of chips, no problem. But every time I think about, putting something bad in my mouth, I think about that visceral fat. That fat around I just envision this big blob of fat, like around my heart, around my liver, around my stomach. And I'm like, nope, I'm not eating that. Because it took me 50 years to build that visceral fat up, right? So it's going to take a while for me to get that off. And I will say, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you mentioned on your last episode, which I really think is important. This is a fat that you can't see as well. As well as, so people, your visceral fat, you could have more of a thin figure and have high visceral fat. So this is important for longevity, because visceral fat leads to the four chronic horsemen, right? Which cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease, insulin resistance or metabolic dysfunction like type 2 diabetes, and cancer. So those are the four chronic horsemen. And visceral fat is a huge precursor to that. So it's something I would encourage a lot of people, no matter your figure, to look at for your own health. But yeah, you mentioned that in your last episode, which I thought was really important for people to understand.
Yeah, it is, because in 51 years of living, I didn't understand it. I was like, I remember asking you, like, what's visceral fat? And you were like, you went into letting me know what that was. And one of the things that the InBody results really, you say you can utilize it as a tool. The tool that I look at, not the scale on the weight, because honestly, I thought, oh my God, Logan is going to be like, this chick weighs this and we got to work with this. Because that's what I was thinking in my mind. Yeah. You have never, ever said anything about the actual scale weight. What we look at is like the overall percentage of score, which I'm still a D, but I'm a 68. I don't know if I can move up 2 points by the time I weigh in again. But my visceral fat number, I'm trying to pull that back up again. I've got the app open. Went down, like, I forget what it was, like a significant amount. The visceral fat number went
like
down.
3 inches.
Yeah, 3.2 inches.
It measures it in centimeters squared, but yeah, it was significant. I remember when you told me.
Yeah, and that I was more pumped about. I mean, who walks around going, yeah, I'm down 3.2 centimeters squared of my visceral fat? But actually, we all should, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess we've harped on the InBody enough. And this is my,
Yeah.
first time going into that, but it is a vital tool, that we need to utilize, in our tools. Like, I have a few apps on my phone right now, like MyFitnessPal. I have actually
Yes.
started tracking my calories and my macros based on what the InBody, results have given me. And I think we're both going to be surprised when I weigh in again in February, because I could already feel the difference. And I'm actually eating more calories.
Yes.
So, yeah, talk about that a little bit, because I was afraid to eat almost. Like,
Yeah.
originally you were like, eat 1,500 calories and 150 grams of protein, but
Yeah.
I've actually been eating more.
Yeah. Yeah. So as your composition has changed, your what you eat has to change. But and I think this 2 episodes ago maybe, but um you mentioned it, like you're viewing food more as fuel for your training. And I think that's a very healthy approach to eating. We're eating so we can do life's fun activities. Like walking, training, working out, snowboarding, whatever it is, food is going to fuel you for that and building that healthy relationship. Also, like BMI, and that number. So a lot of these apps or doctors' recommendations, BMI or MyFitnessPal, it's taking just your age, your sex, male or female, and your height, and it's telling you all these numbers. This is what you should eat because your BMI is here, your age and sex and height is here. But the InBody is taking a deeper look at that. So we're able to integrate all these awesome other resources because we're individualizing you, not just saying you are 5'2" and female. It's taking it much deeper. The InBody is so. I think that's also a huge component to why I'm a huge advocate of it. It's not just a number. It's Julie.
I mean, that was the first thing you were like, you're going to get on that machine. I was like, I don't know. I may not be back tomorrow after doing this. But I mean, the
Yeah.
machine should indicate that you need to keep coming back. And
Yes.
one of the things I want to say is this is a very slow process. A lot of people, you see all this stuff on Instagram. Even I was scrolling this morning, it was like, lose 10 pounds of body fat in a month, or, do this or that. And it took me almost 5 months to lose 10 pounds of body fat. This is not
Yeah.
fast. I've been losing weight since January 2024, really, strategically and committed to it. So talk about what people see versus like actual reality.
Yeah. I mean, all these fitness challenges, lose 20 pounds, lose 10 pounds. But my question is, what is the weight that you're losing? Right? Like 20 pounds of muscle, we don't want to lose 20, or lose 20 pounds and 10 pounds of it's fat, 10 pounds of it's muscle. If you deplete carbs from if you're not eating carbs, you're going to lose some water weight too. So just looking at all of that. So teaching people, you want to actually, like you said, you've been eating more, you're gaining muscle, you're improving your metabolism, your body's working more for you now. So, yeah, everyone is different. It depends on what you have on the InBody, and that's why I like it too. It's, hey, you actually have pretty low percent body fat. That's why you need to eat even more. So, there's the approach to this is another approach to how we as champions individualize things for people. The training for people is, there's not one timeline that fits all. But I think when you sit down, you look at your goals and you see where you're starting, it's much easier. When all you see is a scale number, it's hard to really have you don't know your basal metabolic rate, when you just step on a scale. So you don't really know your true starting point. So, but I think you make really small, realistic goals. Like, what are their SMART goals? That is a good, thing to follow. I don't know how you create your goals, but I like to objectify goals, make them realistic. We have you have the accountability in place with myself, and the InBody. So once you start kind of getting objective numbers, I think, then you can,
Yeah.
create your goal from there, your micro goals. And that maybe is gain a pound. And you can put this in the InBody app. I want to gain a pound of muscle and lose half a pound of fat in 4 weeks. And it'll say, hey, adjust your macronutrients accordingly and do this, activity level, weekly. And if you follow that, and especially if you have, a trainer or someone helping you along the way, I think you're setting yourself up for success.
And it was shocking to me. So, my body, if I do absolutely nothing, I think it's 1,440 calories I need to eat if I
Yes.
just do nothing. And
Right.
that, when you learn the minimal calories that your body needs just to operate and function properly, that opens your eyes even more. Okay, so I'm going on X amount of hikes a week. I'm
Yep.
working out, strength training, X amount of, or resistance training, X
Yeah.
amount of times a week. And, when you were first telling me, hey, you need to eat X amount of calories, I think I even said this to you the other day. It's hard for me to eat that much.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to up my game because I think for years I never ate the right amount of food.
It's
And
quality food, too. Quality of food. When you eat 1,400 calories, I love the images when they put a Chick-fil-A meal or fast food meal to the right, and then to the left they have 1,400 calories of whole food. So, this isn't saying eat, just eat, eat, eat. You're eating, whole foods that are going to help you accomplish your goals, not just eat, you know, a pizza just to get more calories in. So it's that. But I think too, this could sound really tedious and boring to a lot of people. But we're talking counting calories, counting macros. This isn't something I do personally day in and day out. I think like doing resets like this. I mean, you have a very strenuous goal right now for you, like to just, or not strenuous, but more like, I'd say you're more motivated than maybe most people are in this, but you found a way to gamify it for yourself. You're making it fun. When things are fun, I think that's when you found it, right? So for a lot of people, this, a lot of this might sound overwhelming to do, but if you can make it fun, if you can get an accountability buddy, all of this stuff becomes not as like tedious and stressful and negative. It should be, because it can be when you see this, some of your
yeah,
numbers and where you want to be. It can feel sometimes like just an uphill battle. But yeah, just understanding food is fuel. Get your accountability buddy. Make this journey fun, which you've been doing through this podcast and everything else. I think that's the beauty of it.
yeah. And, I've been doing this and I'm still learning. Man, I have puppy breath. I'm like very new at this, but I love the learning process of this. And, I've had people say, oh, what are you going to do? Go and get swole? Or, yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I mean, if I get swole, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just want to be able to hike. If somebody calls me and says, hey, we're going on a 10-mile hike today, I'm in. I'm the first one there. I have my bag packed and
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of getting injured. I know my abilities. I'm ready to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And I think I even mentioned this past week or the week before, I have actually felt like running. Like
Yeah.
when I'm on the trail and I'm not coming to Champions to work out that day or I'm going on a hike, it's like I'm starting to feel so good that I want to step my game up and, actually start running again. And I used to run quite a bit, but, my mindset was, well, the older you get, you shouldn't run. And really, it's the fatter you get, you shouldn't run. So the fatter I was getting, like, you shouldn't run. But now I kind of
It's
feel
harder
like,
to.
yeah, yeah. And, you've been having me do on some days we do really aggressive workouts. On other days we do lifting. I don't know what any of it means, or what the names of the exercises are, but why don't you walk people
Yeah.
through like what you first had me do, like a typical workout when I first
Yeah.
started working out with you, and then kind of progress like kind of where we are now.
Definitely. Well, yeah, because we see each other on a one-on-one basis, twice a week. I know you do our highlight class as well, but what you described to me is you do a lot of, hiking, walking. So I don't want to spend any more time kind of doing that lighter cardio. Um, you've expressed to me obviously that you want to see a change in your composition. You want to add more muscle after seeing the InBody and lose more fat. So to do so, you know, I prioritize a lot of resistance training to flip your metabolism. So that's how we started. And really, part of strength training too is mobility training. So for a lot of people, you know, strength training again looks different for everyone. At first, we just have to improve your mobility. So using lighter resistance, is how we start. But now we've progressed you to, because your mobility has improved, to load you up a little bit more in different positions. So like, as you've expressed to me, hey, I want to now track as I get, start lifting heavier. All right, so let's do a 3-rep max trap bar deadlift for your lower body strength and a 3-rep max for your bench press. Just because, again, you like numbers. I can identify that for you. Some people might not like that, and you don't have to do that approach for them. But because you love numbers, I felt that a 3-rep max is a safe max, right? We're not doing a 1-rep max because that can lead to a little bit more risk if our form isn't as, as good. So I think too, for a lot of people, understanding it doesn't have to be you are collapsed on the floor, just dead tired for it to be good. Like, you can breathe and, not hate your life during a workout, and it can still be beneficial. I think even on the youth athletic side of things with parents, they're like, hey, you have permission to beat my kid up. And I'm like, they don't need that every time. I'm not saying, sometimes it's appropriate. Like, sure, let's test, the mental resiliency of your athlete sometimes. But you don't get burned out of things you enjoy. Strength training or working out should be enjoyable. If you don't enjoy just being beaten up every day, that is okay. You can still get a great workout in that's going to help you achieve your goals. So that's how we've approached it, is just by, again, like I said, showing people who are new to the gym that strength training doesn't have to be the scariest, hardest thing of your life, and you still see the benefits on the trails, on your composition. So more specifically for hiking too, sometimes for the general population as well, doing things like higher reps. So kind of that 10 to 12, 3 to 4 sets. That's kind of the approach we've started with.
Yeah, we've moved up to kind of 4 sets on things.
Yeah. So, that was one progression. Like, we started with 3 sets, 10 to 12 reps. And then, now we've progressed to 4 sets. And you can I do encourage people sometimes to go less than the 10 reps. Like, I tell you, hey, if you can only do 8, but you're doing it at this weight, I'm okay with that, because I think a lot of people get stuck at the 10 rep thing, and there is value in going heavier and doing it for 6 to 8 reps. That will get you stronger as well. So playing around for you with that rep range, but then the next week or next month, you're now doing that same weight that you once did. First 2 sets you did 10, last 2 sets you did 8. Now you're doing all 4 sets at 10. And then, again, you can continue to progress in so many different ways, but that is kind of what we followed with you. And now it took us 6 months to get a baseline for your trap bar deadlift. So we didn't start with just like 3-rep maxing you out.
I know I lifted, I don't know what it was. I think it was 145. And I was like, well, what normally do people do? And you're like, well, like 4 times their body weight or something like that. I'm like, I ain't doing that.
Yeah, like for athletes, we try to get our college athletes moving it, 2.5 times their body weight on a trap bar deadlift. But that's, again, a college.
Yeah, 51-year-old Jester's doing good at 145. And I'll get better because I want to get better. One of the things I was going to say, too, is I have really noticed, and we've talked about this, when I go out to the trails at my local nature preserve. We have Crowder's Mountain, which is a local state park. I mean, the trails I used to think were like, in my mind, I knew I had a tough time on. They're not as tough. And that is a great feeling. And I mean, I've been hiking a long time, but I used to go from the couch to the hike. And, you know, when you go from the couch to the hike, I was like, man, hiking just hurts, but I love it so much. And now I'm like, I'm just not hurting. And, you know, people are like, well, you know, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And I'm like, you don't really know what I'm doing. And now I'm going to give you a taste of what I'm doing. And this is why it works. So another comment I get a lot is, oh, well, that just costs too much. It costs too much to have a personal trainer. It costs too much to eat healthy. It costs too much to do anything. And in the hiking world, we don't think anything about spending $800 on a tent or $600 on a backpack or, you know, a hiking umbrella that costs $200. I mean, we don't think anything about it. And there are hiking influencers out on YouTube. That's all they do is they show you their gear. And I'm like, well, if you add all that up, at every season, if you bought all new equipment every year, you will have paid for a personal trainer, a gym membership. And I've just kind of flipped a switch in my mind. I don't need a lot of new gear. I need a body that when I retire, I'm going to go hike the trails that I've been wanting to hike and dreaming about the whole time I've been working. So that also is another flip that has happened for me because I don't want to be the person that retires and they can't move. Yeah. And, you know, they have to have surgeries and they're having their hips replaced and all these things. So, you know, I know you hear that a lot, like this cost a lot and this and that.
All the time. And I've seen it, you know, in my family, to those close to me. I've seen grandparents, you know, like they're retired, you know, they can do anything in the world they want. And I love my grandma to death, but she's, you know, on the couch and she wants to be doing this stuff. It's just, it's not it has never been part of her routine. She worked her whole life, single mom, got her 2 kids through everything that they needed to get through growing up. You know, she's a social worker. Yeah, like she truly had all the excuses in the world, right? But I think over time we've gotten, as a society, I think it's really normal now for a lot of people my age to have a gym membership, which I think is awesome. And I think,
yeah, we were talking about that the other day. Yeah. Like for your generation, it's like, of course I have a gym membership.
Yeah. So it's just prioritizing your health, making that, I think, make it part of your budget. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be the personal trainer. You just have to figure out what works for you, what's fun. But I think in my mind, I kind of say it's training for life. I want, in my personal life, and I think a lot of people identify with this, I want to fear less. I want to say yes to any and every physical opportunity I can do. And like you want to be able, I mean, you've worked so hard, your whole life, especially as a teacher, that now this is like really the fun part, right? You're entering, I think, the most beautiful phase of life where you get to celebrate all your years of hard work, and you want to have a body that's capable of doing so. And I can't think of a more important investment for someone like yourself to make, to be healthy and enjoy all of life's wonderful activities, especially outside. So to some extent, I think everyone should make this part, I know I'm biased, of their budget. But like I have a member who, he's over 65, he gets 112 from the government every month to use on any gym. So we use his card for whatever, if it's Medicare, what have you. I think that it's 112 a month, and that's how he uses it. So I think there are a lot of also programs out there for people to look into to see what their health insurance or jobs will give them.
And I think I see him there quite a bit. If I'm thinking of the gentleman, there's several gentlemen that are older that come and work out. They kick my butt. So
We have a 78-year-old in the gym. So he's even, yeah, he doesn't use that. He actually wants to do like a silver sneakers program. He came up to me, he bought me coffee at Starbucks, set up a meeting with me to tell me that he wants to start training a silver sneakers program. So we'll see if that
That
works out.
is how many you need. How many people you need?
Yeah. We just have to get the government to approve that we are facility to do so. But it is cool that a 78-year-old wants to be, a personal trainer to help others like himself. So it is a really cool gym that I get to hear myself a lot of inspiring stories. And a lot of people tell me, you'll understand one day, so when I have these conversations with people, because we don't get a lot of 20-year-olds. So I am speaking with a lot of, 40, 50, 60 and up people day in and day out. And all I can say is it is amazing. It's inspiring for me. And I can honestly tell you from experience through others that it's not too late to start, because I have had countless men and women over the age of 50 and 60 start lifting weights for the first time in their life at Champions with us. And they have done things that they never thought they could. So it is not too late if there is anyone. I know I'm 26 and what do I know, but
You know a lot. Yeah.
So just to say it's not too late for anyone.
Well, and I see it there. I see all different ages, and that's one of the cool things that I like. And you've even had I forget the kid's name. He's one of the high schoolers there. He comes over and, he and I have done finishers together. And, he and I are counting down together. And I don't think he sees me as the old lady that I feel like when I'm doing that with him, or the girls that come in after me that you train, that are on their high school soccer teams. It's like they come over, we're chatting before you get started with them. And, young people are resilient. They don't think anything about it. They just come in, they say, hey, and they get, they do have a little drama, but
they had to build up to that too. So a lot of those high school girls that you're referencing experience how you felt. And this is what I think is invaluable. Two things. One, Champions is a scary place for most people who've never been in a gym, even if you've been in a gym. So to understand, a lot of people, even high school girls, Julie, felt the way you felt starting. I mean, Megan, who you see all the time, she told me she cried before she came into Champions for the first time because she was just had so much anxiety, or, you tell yourself it's not going to be fun, or whatever negative self-talk you kind of, which is so normal. But now she loves it. She runs up to us every day, says hi. It's, it's a really, fun, environment for her. And then my second piece, what was it? I'm trying to remember.
Was it about the high school kid, the guy? I forget his name.
Yeah, Connor.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I want people to know too that that's part of it. I think it's something worth, just because the big life lesson for her is, you thought something was about to be the worst day of your life, and it ended up being something that you really value in your life. So just saying yes to opportunities that are really scary. And I hope she and all the other high school, especially girls, young females, this is training for life. I tell my parents, I'm not guaranteeing your kid's going to get a college scholarship, or I'm not guaranteeing Julie, you're going to have you're going to be the most swole woman in the world.
Come on.
If they want to be college athletes, let's get there. If you want to, be on a stage one day, let's get there. But I'm not telling anyone that guaranteed this is the outcome of it. But what I do feel like is this is going to help anything you do in life. It's going to make you more confident when you stand in a room, when you're, interviewing, when you're hiking, whatever the scenario is. If you train your body, you're going to be a more confident person for any scenario in life. I just strongly feel that way because I've seen it in everyone, wide range of people that we've worked with.
On that note, another thing that fuels me besides my InBody results is in the workouts themselves are my students, because I tell my students how old I am. Well, I try to have them guess, and they don't really want to say. They're like, 40, 42, or somebody will say 27, and I'm like, oh, that's great. And I tell them I'm 51, and they're actually in shock.
Yeah.
Because somebody who's 14, 15, 16 years old, they have me in the grave. And when they realize, like, dang, she's working out, and every once in a while I'll do like squats or lunges in class to like try to wake people up or freak them out, like, what is she doing? And I just think it's so different, and it's a compliment to me when the kids are like, dang, you're 51, that's awesome. Yeah. Because I'm their grandma. Their grandmas are 51.
But being that role model too for a lot of us, like, I joke that it's so easy. I get credit cards thrown at me for kids, right? When parents are up their kids, they're just throwing their cards at me. Not really, but but then I ask, well, what are you guys doing? What are you doing for yourself? And sometimes it's like, hey, I'm just, I want to get my kid set up first, and then you ask me about myself later. But I think, again, and I can appreciate, there's no like judgment or anything, but I think it is a really beautiful thing when you can be the role model for kids. Like Julie, like, you could inspire your students that night to go home and do some lunges or do something just by that good little banter and joking class. But it is really inspiring to see others prioritizing their health and fitness. And I think it's a ripple effect. So if more parents took care of themselves first, sometimes the kids and teachers and what have you, the kids will naturally follow that behavior. You don't have to make them. They're going to see you do that, and they're going to follow that.
I love it. I love it. So as we wrap up here, anybody in the Charlotte audience, if you want to come on over to Champions, you can come on over and do that. Logan's information is going to be in the description. It's going to be in the show notes when the audio version comes out. So first of all, Logan, thank you for coming on here and chopping it up with me. You and I tend to do this, as you're training me anyway. And one of the things I love talking with you about, you have an entrepreneurial, if I could even say that word, an entrepreneur spirit. And we talk business a lot, and various things that you want to do in your business ventures, and various things that I do. And as we close this out, I don't know how to say this because I don't want to give everything away, but you and I have a little special project. I don't know. Do you want to say anything about that?
Well, and I think the way, if I'm reading this right, the Waybright family asked if I train privately on farms, asking for a friend. So I think this could be something that could be really beneficial for a lot of your listeners and people that don't live close, to the Lake Norman area. We definitely, Julie has inspired me as well. And, I think, again, what we've done, Julie, with you could help a lot of other people. So we are trying to figure out, which I think we will, a way to communicate more with your viewers and help them on the training side. We have an app-based program that I can be your virtual coach, and Julie can be your cheerleader, and we help you on the journey of, whether your goal is to, hike have some PR hikes or just feel better hiking, improve your own body composition, what have you. This training program should kind of check all those boxes.
Yeah. So we gave you a little sneak peek. Now we got to put some stuff together behind the scenes, and you and I are going to reconnect back up here in a couple weeks. We're going to have you back on the show, and I'm excited. So we will see how many views you get versus Matt's episode. That was in the fall of 2023.
Quality over quantity.
There you go.
So if you got more views, that doesn't necessarily mean it was more, because that's how we view our training approach as well, quality over quantity. So that's also a factor here. But we'll figure that out.
Truth. And the way we'll figure this out is if you have questions for Logan, put them in the chat, put them in the comments. Send me a DM over on Instagram, because the next episode we are going to have an announcement about what we're doing, hopefully, fingers crossed. And then we will have Logan answer some of your own individual questions. You can send me an email. All the information's below. You can, if you're Charlotte based, North Charlotte based, you can reach out to Champions Sports, Lake Norman, Cordelius location. And I'm sure Logan will be glad to chat with you. So Logan, appreciate it. I don't have anything else. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with, or we'll leave them with, we'll be back, and
we'll be back.
We've got something in the works. So I'm going to flip the screen over here and kind of close out the episode. So y'all, this is where I'm headed in 2025 for the podcast, bringing you all along with me, sharing how I'm constantly training, eating properly, nutrition. But the main thing is I'm learning. And whenever I meet people that are going to help me learn, I'll bring them on the show. And that's kind of where we're at. So I'm going to close it out. I don't want Logan to have to hang on any longer than possible. If you joined us on the live version, I truly appreciate it. If you are listening to the audio version, send me an email, shoot me a DM on Instagram with your questions. And as always, everybody, thanks for listening. Be safe out there, and happy section hiking.